Get your tissues out. Go on. Shed a tear. Get out your system, Rach. You've braced yourself for this one. It is the end of an era for Viv Miedema, the WSL's all-time goal scorer. She's going to leave Arsenal at the end of the season when her contract expires. Arsenal reportedly didn't offer her a contract.
What are you doing?
Rach, I'm going to start with how do you feel about that decision? But I kind of feel like you've told us already.
I'm going to be like, if she leaves the WSL, we're going to need to like get a camera on me in some axe throwing room or one of those, those places where you just go with a bat and you just smash stuff.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, because I'll be absolutely gutted. I probably comes as no surprise. She is one of my all-time favourite
Didn't get that from you.
to watch. So I will be very sad. And hopefully she doesn't leave the WSL. Rumours have it that she won't. Struggling to wrap my head around it. There'd been rumours floating about contract extensions and all that kind of stuff and whether she was going to sign again. And I appreciate some fans out there pointing out that, well, we've got Stina now and we've got Russo and we've got players in these positions and, all that kind of stuff. But Miedema is a player who can play multiple positions, who can play across a front line, who can float, who can read a game so well. Her game she is one of the greatest.
So intelligent.
She's one of the greatest. And I think to choose not to keep her, like I always thought if she left Arsenal because she wanted to leave Arsenal, but from the reports, it's that they didn't offer her a new contract, but I just can't really wrap my head around. You've lost her now on a free, which seems, again, bonkers, and potentially to a rival. So, when you see former player pundits coming out struggling to understand this decision, I think it tells you everything.
I think it would help almost adding more context to just exactly what she's brought to her 7 years in North London. I mean, she scored 125 goals, provided 50 assists in 172 appearances for the club since joining from Bayern in 2017. 79 of her goals have been in the WSL, making her the all-time top goal scorer. She won the WSL title with Arsenal in 2018-19 and lifted the Conti Cup on 3 occasions.
She's still the record scorer, having been out for like over a year.
Well, I think this is also kind of like the additional context to this, isn't it? That she has had a very injury-troubled last 2 seasons. I mean, she's only made 13 appearances this season following her return from ACL injury. Do you think that's the crux of the issue, essentially, that Arsenal were thinking, are we going to see her back to full form after not having the best 2 years?
Well, I mean, one of those years she was out with an ACL injury, so she wasn't going to play.
Not her fault.
No, and I think, integrating players back in after an ACL injury takes time. It's not the same for everybody. She is still one of the greatest players while being integrated back in from injury. Like, you cannot teach that game intelligence that she has, and the fitness will come. Do you know what I mean? That you have to be patient with those kind of injuries. So it feels a bit OTT to imply that, like, they've given up on her or that was the reason. If it is, it doesn't fill you with hope if you're a player in that squad, does it? And it kind of almost breaks that family vibe that we feel from the squad, that they have each other's back and they stick through with each other through thick and thin, if that is the reason. I wouldn't like to think that that's the reason. She's 27. It's not It's not like she's nearing the end of her career and you think she's never going to reach those heights again. She probably still hasn't even reached her best, which is crazy. So, I think it's kind of a risky move. It's going to be interesting to see who they try and replace her with, because she isn't just any old number 9 or number 10. Like, she is a record breaker still. So if she goes off to another team and starts banging in the goals again, they might be regretting the decisions.
Well, before we talk about Arsenal's replacement of Viv, where do we think potentially is going to be next for her? There's kind of rumours flying around that Manchester City, obviously WSL rivals, could be her next destination. Do we think there's any truth in that? My gut feel is that she might be making a move abroad in Europe somewhere. That's my gut.
Oh, I think from what I've heard is that she'd stay in the WSL. I'd be surprised if she moved abroad. I just feel like, sometimes you forget that players are people and they've put down roots and, they have relationships and they have built a life in a country, and it's not as simple as just kind of upping sticks and moving. Rumour has it that, Man City is the kind of biggest rumour that's been spoken about. I'm struggling to wrap my head around how she'd slot in there behind Bunny Shaw, but, they've got Jess Park now playing through the middle. They've Jill Roord. Will Jess Park go back out wide? Will Roard playing 8. I don't know like how it would work, but
You also have to think about the name combinations, don't you? Like Shordemar.
Bunnymead.
Bunnymead sounds like something from Harry Potter.
It sounds like a place, doesn't it?
Yeah, Bunnymead. In
Well,
Colchester.
We'll work it out. We'll figure something. If it happens, we'll work it out.
Okay, what do
we'll
we
see.
think Arsenal are going to... what do we think Arsenal are essentially going to do to replace Viv then?
Well,
How do you replace someone like that?
That's what I was going to say. It's not a very easy... You bring in 3 players? I don't know. You moneyball it and you try and figure out what our best assets were and bring in multiple people to replace it. The rumours are that they're going to go in for Mariana Caldente, which obviously a very, very good player, but not a Viv Miedema in terms of the number of goals that she's scoring. So, I think they'll need the likes of Blackstenius. Should Blackstenius stay? That's another one whose contract it needs looking at. You need Russo stepping up with the goals. Goals is where Arsenal have been struggling this season, and I feel like what they've been struggling, one of the reasons they've been struggling is missing that visionary in place to see those moments and those passes, and you've just fucking got rid of her. So
I think it has been an interesting season though for the attacking line, because I do feel like Eidevall has tried to kind of use all these different combinations. There are so many kind of attacking players that offer different things in different games that we've seen Miedema kind of drop into that every now and again, but not essentially be one of the sort of starting players a lot.
I think the starting thing though is down to fitness, and I don't know whether her style of... She reminds me of a Kelly Smith in terms of, we put you in a 10 or a 9, but go do you, hun, because you can read the game so well. You can drop back, you can pull out wide, you can do so many different things. And I'm not sure that free license is something Jonas Eidevall necessarily likes. I still think if you can't manage a player that, or allow a player of that quality to do what they do, you're just never going to get the best out of them, are you?
Do we think that we kind of saw her best days under Montemuro more so?
I think she really enjoyed playing under Joe Montemuro. I think he was quite happy to almost kind of not build a team around her, but like he knew what she could do and allowed her the kind of freedom to do it. And I think maybe that just hasn't worked out as well under Eidevall. I don't know. Like, I think Arsenal generally have struggled goal scoring, the last few seasons. And maybe we haven't had as much time with Miedema under Eidevall. But, when you think back to the partnerships between Miedema, Blackstenius, Mead, even at times McCabe popping up, those relationships were developing really well. I guess then the injury came, and it takes time to get those moments back again and for players to be able to read each other. So yeah, it could be that kind of freedom doesn't maybe work under his style. I don't know.
And if we take it a little bit off pitch and we sort of think about the presence that Viv Miedema has in the dressing room.
Well, you tell me, you're the
mean,
player. Like when you lose a player like that, and you saw some of the lovely posts coming from other players in the team at the fact that they're losing her. Like, and I know she's not necessarily the biggest presence maybe off the pitch, but I guess losing her in the dressing room as well and losing that weapon of a player.
It's massive. I don't think you can kind of underestimate how big it is when you lose a player that has so much kind of just enthusiasm for the game. I think I wouldn't be surprised if she's sort of one of those players who you can kind of go to and say like this, especially for the younger players as well coming in, this isn't working, this is what I should do. And like she'll be one of those that the younger players will be looking at clips of her and asking her questions and kind of, getting a feel for like her presence around the ground. I mean, she's not a big kind of like personality in the sense that she doesn't do all these sort of like crazy things on TikTok, and she's not
unless she's forced to
like she's not kind of like jumping on the dances and things like that, and kind of she's not really outspoken on loads and loads of things, but it's just the respect for her. But
she drives standards, right?
100%. And also I think when you lose a big player like that, it does unsettle you in terms of, okay, well, who else could go off the back of that, and like what does my kind of future look like if someone like that can be let go. So I do think it creates those kind of uncertainty as well. But Arsenal, ever true to form, have also dropped some further news, maybe to try and get a bit of distraction.
That's not going to work.
From Viv. I don't think it's enough of a distraction, but here we go. They announced this morning that at least 11 games will be played at the Emirates next season, making it their home ground, essentially. 8 WSL games and 3 Champions League fixtures if they qualify for the group stages. If they go on to the latter stages, then all the knockouts will be at the Emirates. And if they they don't qualify at all, then 11 league games will be at the Emirates. Rach, does that feel like enough of a news distraction for you to take away from the Viv Miedema stuff?
It's great, but it's not. I don't think it's not going to distract. I think the fans will see right through it and they'll be like, guys, read the room. No, but it is great because they have incrementally been building every season the amount of games that they have played at the Emirates. And we saw last season how they could consistently get, I think the average attendance across all 6 WSL games was 50,000. So they've proven that they can consistently get those numbers. So 8 league games, potentially 11 league games. What would be really interesting, I mean, I want them to qualify for the Champions League, but if they don't, it will be interesting to see how they manage with all 11 WSL games at the Emirates. But yeah, we know that they play their Champions League games there. We know if they get into the knockouts, they have to play them there. So they could potentially end up having even more than 11, but it's a really good move in the right direction. We know that's the direction that they've been travelling. And I think this season has allowed them now to start notching up more games and officially call it their home ground.
Well, it's sad not to see Viv's one last walkout at the Emirates, but Meadow Park will have the chance to say goodbye to her on Saturday when they take on Brighton.
I got to see her last game at the Emirates.
But you didn't even know at that time?
I didn't know it, but I saw
what you
it.
would have done differently, eh?
Nothing, but cried. No, but I did. I got to see her against Leicester.